Hey there everyone, it's Shane, Aonghus, Graham here. This week we were supposed to see the new Stephen King movie, but when I went to see it there was a problem in the thing, the projector was broken. Simple fix though, turns out just had to turn it on and off again. It was an IT problem.
Hey folks, today we'll be reviewing Stephen King's It, a film that has lots of blooms.
Okay, if you've been living under a rock, It is a story of a group of teenagers in 1980s Maine who, for some reason or another, face off against a clown. That's it.
And I just want to address the audience, let them know that you don't have to be living under a rock for that to be the story.
Living under a rock or not.
Just trying to say
That is still the story.
Just trying to say it's popular. People know about this.
Rock or not.
Okay, It. Did you have any prior expectations going into this at all?
Not too much, no. I didn't watch too many trailers or read too much into it. I saw the TV miniseries a couple of years back and I don't know, it was fine. I suppose I don't have this big nostalgia love for it that a lot of people have.
It's really not that great, I think.
Read the book a couple of years ago as well, same as like I don't overly love it. It wouldn't be one of my favourite books of all time, so I didn't have the movie too hyped up going into it. Stephen King adaptations are kind of funny because when they're done well, they can turn out really great, but when they're done bad, they can be quite painful to watch. Mm-hmm. So I tried to go in with a pretty neutral and open mind.
Okay, that's a good attitude.
Yeah.
And were you like looking forward to this in any major way?
I was. I was like Shane, I didn't watch too many trailers or anything, and I appreciate the first film having a cult following, but I'm not too keen on the first film. I had a feeling they were going to do something exciting, and I liked the designs of the character Pennywise, and I was intrigued that they got an unknown actor to play the part, so it wasn't just the sake of getting some famous actor in because people know him. They literally got the right person for the job, so I was intrigued to see what this fellow would do with Pennywise. What do you think, Aonghus?
I didn't really care.
I see.
Well, I suppose that's not entirely true. I cared a little. I cared a little when it was first in pre-production, and the guy from True Detective and whatever else he's made, Kerry
Fukuyama.
That guy, the guy, and it sounded potentially that it could be really, really interesting because he was a very like hot property in Hollywood, and he seemed to be kind of willing to make his own decisions and do his own thing. And then the first casting news came out for Pennywise, and it was this English actor called Will Poulter who's appeared in a few different things.
Yes, the guy with the eyebrows.
Yes, and it was a very left field choice, and for a while it threatened that they could make something very, very interesting, very, very unique with this, apart from, the TV miniseries that we all kind of know at this stage. But then, production difficulties and different people were hired, and it seemed like everything was going to become a bit more predictable and a bit more, we've seen it all before. So I wasn't particularly enthused about it.
Where's the poison ivy? Nowhere. Okay, well, I'm starting to get itchy, and I'm pretty sure this is not
Do you
good
use
for
the
my-
same bathroom as your mother?
Sometimes, yeah.
Then you probably have crabs.
That's so not funny.
The movie's got to be marketed as much as being a comedy as it is horror. And I think the funny or comedic aspects of the film are a little bit overrated. I don't think it's actually that effective as a comedy as it's being marketed as. Does anyone agree?
I didn't look too much at the marketing. I didn't realise it was being marketed as a comedy as well. I wouldn't see that aspect in it at all after watching it.
Sorry.
Like I know there's humor in every film, but I wouldn't find the film overly funny. There is funny lines, there's funny characters.
But they're definitely trying to push comedy in the interaction between the kids, which is which is kind of as big a part of the movie as the actual scares.
Yeah.
And I found that a bit unusual.
Yeah, I guess. No, it is a good point. I found that dialogue, a lot of it worked, and then they kind of kept overdoing it. Like, for instance, the hypochondriac. You know, his lines were funny at the beginning of the film, but they done it through the whole film, and I was just like, okay, that's funny. We don't need to hear him keep making the same jokes all the time.
It's grey water.
What the hell's grey water?
It's basically piss and shit. So I'm just telling you, you guys are splashed around in millions of gallons of dairy pee.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of an obviousness to it sometimes. Like, it was funny at first when you hear a character make a joke about, you know, his massive dick or whatever, and you're like, oh, that's hilarious. But then after he does it 20 more times, you're kind of like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I've had it now. And
I think part of that problem though is there's so many characters that they all become caricatures.
Yeah.
Like, you have the hypochondriac, you have the fat kid, you have the girl, you have
the black
guy
kid.
with the stutter, you have the black kid, and then you have the guy that likes to swear and talk about his
wang
dong
or
his
whatever.
wang,
Yeah.
So, are you serious? What are you?
Doesn't smell like caca to me, senor.
Have you ever heard of a staph infection?
Also,
This
staph
is so unsanitary.
That is a problem with the movie, that there is just too many kids.
They think that you'll always be protected and cared for.
It is hard to give a shit about all of these kids.
People die or disappear 6 times the national average. And that's just grown-ups. Kids are worse. Way worse.
So is it a scary movie?
I think that the movie goes for two very different types of scares. I think you have the whole thing with Pennywise the clown and the real kind of supernatural heavy scares, and for the most part I think they work for what they are. You have a bit too much of them, so you get a bit fatigued by them, but I think when they land well, they land really well. I think the other half that the scares are trying to do is a much more human nature thing. Like, you have the whole thing with Beverly's dad, I forget what his name is, but the sick child, his mother,
Yeah, I can't remember his name either.
the bully and his dad, and there's that whole kind of human side. I think that's less well done. I think it would have been a great counterbalance to the whole Pennywise thing, but I don't think it's not landed very well. I think because of so many characters, everything is rushed through and they all feel like just bullet points, and they're not done well. But is the movie scary? I think some of the scenes are, you know, it's built up okay, and the music is nice and loud, and you get a bit of a, you know, fun to watch. And that kind of, they're never outright scary, I don't think. They're more fun scary, is the way I look at it.
So Graham, were you scared?
I shit me britches. I found the movie very scary. It was getting. I tried not to watch anything of the movie before I went in. I knew it was getting good reviews. I'm used to the same kind of jump scares in every movie a lot lately. Just the same thing of a ghost girl walking funny. They kind of do have that kind of style for some of the jump scares, but there's something different by the way they're editing it or something. But it really kind of got me, and I thought it was done very well. What about yourself, Aonghus? Did you find the movie scary?
I'm going to give a slightly hypocritical opinion on the film here and say, yeah, I was pretty scared. But in retrospect, I can only say, it wasn't really that scary. And I don't know why. I'm not a big fan of jump scares. I don't like how they toy with my emotions and make me feel like a little child again. But as full on as they were, and the first hour of this movie is nothing but build up to jump scare after jump scare after jump scare, there's a certain repetitiveness that comes in after a while that you feel like they're pretty cheap. And even though some of them are effective, some of them are borderline cheesy. And there's a tendency, I think, in the movie to throw as much as it can on the screen at any one moment, to over-egg every single horror, and a little bit of less is more would have been quite effective. And Pennywise, as a character, is, he's pretty horrifying, but the more you see of him, the less terrifying he becomes. and that is a major problem in the film being scary or not. I think the film is quite scary in places, but I don't know. I don't think it'll get into your bones. The scares don't really, terrify you. They only terrify you if you have a nervous disposition, like myself. But that's more to do with me than it is to do with the actual quality of the scares in the film.
So who's your favourite Pennywise?
Oh man, we haven't even talked about the guy who.
Bill Skarsgård.
Okay, who's favorite Pennywise? I don't know. I think the guy who plays Pennywise in this film is pretty good, but he's often buried under loads of effects and all sorts of add-ons and what have you. But when he gets his moments to just like do a bit of acting, he's quite effective, and he's creepy. He's always a little bit creepy, but there's just always so much stuff going on around Pennywise that it can be hard to just take the core character very, very seriously. Who's better between him and Tim Curry? I don't know. It's been such a long time since I saw the first adaptation that I'd probably say Tim Curry, because he sort of established the role and set the template, and I think he's
iconic.
He's iconic in the role, as you say, and I think he managed the comedic aspect a lot better.
Yeah,
and I think that's crucial in the components of the character.
Great.
I am going.
Shame.
Forgive me for not remembering his name. I am going to go with the new guy.
Bill Skarsgård.
Bill Skarsgård. I'm going to forget that again in 2 minutes. But no, I kind of prefer that there was no kind of comedy in the Pennywise character. This is going to be very contradicting. Like he was very over the top, but I also found him very kind of subtle in some of his kind of methods of some of the things he was doing. I just really enjoyed what he done, especially just I think the first scene, his first appearance blew me away so much, and that's kind of in the film. That's kind of the most he gets to do. Like he doesn't really get to do that much after that, but I just thought he done a very good job, and he was very eerie. I wouldn't be interested in having a comedy aspect to the character, because as we know, that's what ruined Freddy Krueger in the end as well. When they kind of just try to make him funny. And
I think there's something slightly different though with the fact that Pennywise is a clown, so you're always going to run up against that kind of dichotomy there, that he is a clown, but he is terrifying. So you always have to have a comedic aspect to him. But in this, it is underplayed.
Well,
he's more threatening than actually hilarious.
Yeah, they went two very different directions. Like the Tim Curry Pennywise looks like an actual clown.
Yes.
And to see him first, you would actually think, is he an actual clown?
Yeah.
Or is he a big demon thing?
Sure, you let him go to my kids.
This one, I don't think you're ever really in doubt.
You'd be a very strange child if you felt that was a welcoming clown.
Now,
except if you're Georgie.
I do think that his first scene is his best scene. He's given the most to do, and he's kind of
but equally, he's not like, there is not all these accoutrements to him. It's like you're just kind of left to focus on his face and his delivery of the lines.
The way he's delivering the lines, he is quite scary, but there is something about him where, I don't know, charming is the wrong word.
Alluring
is a good word.
That's a good word.
And I think that first scene has the most potential, and had they followed through with that as opposed to just straight up scares.
Yeah.
It could have been, he would have been a much better Pennywise that way.
Yeah.
The potential was there, but I don't think it was.
You see, I'm intrigued that they didn't develop his character. I like that he's underdeveloped. Because I find in a lot of horror films you fall into a trap, like in the third act, where they start trying to explain a big origin for the character, and I kind of I don't know much about the character, and I just like the subtleness of it.
I think we know enough about him to understand what he is, and that's fine. I just found it was just so much visually every time he's on screen. It's just I thought it was interesting how they set some of the big scare scenes in this movie during the daytime, and that's an unusual approach. They're still not really that scary. It's a kind of,
that was very interesting during the day and in front of other people.
Yeah,
and so it still kind of works for me sometimes. And I was in awe in that at the cinema. I was like, how are they kind of making this kind of, for me it was scary, like when there's groups of people around, because usually in a film it's kind of the protagonist is by himself in a dark room or something, but they kind of done it differently this time around.
The monsters see you as weaker. You don't even know they're getting closer until it's too late.
Well, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought what it sets out to do, it does. The scares kind of were executed well. I have big flaws with maybe the editing of the second act, because I think a lot of the plot was glossed over, such as things like the kids don't kind of share each other's experiences with each other after what happened, and they seem to, at the end, realise that they should be afraid of Pennywise, or they shouldn't be afraid of him, and then they can conquer him. And we knew as the audience, but we never saw it in the film for them to find that out. So there's lots of flaws in the film like that kind of really annoyed me. So I'd take a lot of points off for that. So I'd maybe give, I also think actually the duration of the film, it's very long, but regardless, I still think the film is very rewatchable. So I'm going to give the film a 6 out of 10.
Graham, you mightn't believe this, but I completely agree with your score. I would also give it a 6 out of 10 because there's a lot of things I enjoyed in it, and I think it is an entertaining movie and some of the scares are effective, but at the same time I would have questions about its lack of subtlety and how it just kind of grinds you down and kind of bores you slightly by the end despite its best efforts. And structurally there's questions about how long the film is, how certain subplots get too much time and other ones don't get enough, how there's too many characters and it's hard to care about them all. But yeah, it's a well-made horror movie and it's an enjoyable enough 2 hours and 15 minutes at the cinema. So yeah, 6 out of 10.
Don't want to be unoriginal, but I'll second pretty much everything Aonghus said. Yeah.
Oh, this guy.
It's true though. Like,
somebody's got to have a crazy opinion.
no, it's a bit, runs a bit long. It's too many characters, a couple of kind of mishandled subplots, but overall it is enjoyable, and the 2 hours and 15 minutes do go by pretty okay, and I would watch it again. By no means a masterpiece, but it's definitely not bad, and I think a 6 out of 10 is quite a fair score.
So
yeah, that's boring.
6.
6. 6.